broadcast network, AFTERBUZZ TV. Over 20 million weekly downloads in over 150 countries, and your number one source for after-show entertainment. AFTERBUZZ TV, the destination for TV superfans. Producing aftershows for over 300 of your favorite TV shows, interviewing celebrities and showrunners, and bringing you behind-the-scenes exclusives. All thanks to E! Entertainment's Maria Menounos, producer Kevin Undergaro, and internet leader Akaman. Now, let the buzz begin!
When the lights go down,
hey everybody, welcome to another episode of The Ultimate Fighter, Season 21, Week 2. Let me introduce to you my co-host. I'm Suri Serano, and next to me is Mr. Jared Gilkerson. Welcome.
It's great to be back.
Yes,
Episode
it is, right?
2.
I know, it's pretty exciting.
This is fun.
About.
Yeah.
And over on the other side of the table, Mr. Jay Tan.
Hello.
Tan or Tan? Tan. Welcome back.
I have no joke for that yet. You would think after all these years that I've been around, I would have some kind of line for it.
Yeah.
But no. You're kind of making me go back to the drawing board.
I'm sorry, my bad.
No.
And to your left, Miss Beautiful Alexis Torres. Welcome.
Aww, I'm blushing. You can't see it, but it's there.
So, and we have to introduce our very special guest joining us from Florida, Tough 21, Mr. Kamaru Usman.
You can't see us.
Thank
What's
you
up?
for joining us. Can you hear us? Uh-oh. We can't hear him.
Audio issues.
We're going to work on that.
Anyway.
But he is right there, as you can see.
He is floating behind
Hear
us.
us, but we cannot hear him. We'll get that sorted out. Marissa, thank you. Our producer is going to work. Oh, there we go.
All right.
Can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
Nice.
guys.
Amazing. Thank you so much for joining us.
No problem. It's my pleasure to have you.
So we could start in a million different places with this episode, right? I mean, let's first of all, for those joining in that might not know, it's two teams, Florida-based teams, American Top Team and the Blackzilians Face Off, and they're living in a house together. I'm sure most people are familiar with the Ultimate Fighter, and the prize at the end, $500,000 is up for grabs, and there's quite a history between these two teams, and especially the owners. They hate each other. Kamaru, I'm going to just jump in and ask you about these owners. Is it legit? How much is for show and TV and even ratings? Who knows? What do you think?
It is 100% legit. I believe TV just gives everybody at home a chance to see the animosity that's really between the two of these guys. They really genuinely don't like each other, and there was a few times on the show that I thought they were gonna come to blows. But that beef is 100% genuine, and they do not like each other.
Yeah, I was going to ask you real quick. From this episode, you could see your reaction in the background when they were going at it with each other. Is there anything that we didn't see that was on camera between the two of them?
Of course, on camera, they're going to edit it, the way they can't have the full scene in there. So it could have been maybe a 5-minute complete talk that you guys couldn't see on there that they had to cut down to a certain amount. But yeah, there was a point there that I felt like it was baseball. It was going to be the batter's box and just clear out both, and it was just going to be a brawl right there in the middle of the gym.
It's funny because with this season, I mean, there's a lot of differences in the way that this season is set up. Like, one of the only similarities really is the house itself. But we can talk about the differences later. I am definitely curious to get Kamaru's take on the whole experience, but with the coaches themselves, this is the first time that we've had coaches that aren't fighters themselves, that the season is not culminating in a fight between them. This is just bad blood between two gym owners now, obviously, but one who came from the other gym originally, ATT. Brazil, Blackzilians really was a I wouldn't even quite say an offshoot, but in some ways kind of was from ATT. So to that end, does that, like, with these coaches not being fighters, although granted, Dan Lambert has a black belt in jiu-jitsu, correct, Kamaru?
Correct.
That's my understanding. I mean, talk about the training or the training background with Glenn. And do you think that there's any what are kind of the differences between two coaches that aren't necessarily going to fight at the end and that aren't active fighters versus previous seasons? Did it ever feel like you said, two coaches, but did it feel like dad versus dad, and you kind of wanted to see that fight happen, but you also really didn't want to see that happen?
Well, I mean, something that a little dynamic that people are missing is it's not coach versus coach. It's manager versus manager.
Okay.
And these are basically, they're the top dogs. They own both gyms, both establishments, and they manage quite a few guys in each gym. And in most cases, in our guys, most of the guys in our gym are managed by Glenn. I don't think there's, to my knowledge, I don't think there's anyone that's not managed by us. But in the American Top Team, there's a lot of guys that aren't even managed by Dan, and they have different managers, but they just train there. And so, that's the dynamic. It's manager versus manager, not so much coach versus coach. We still have our regular coaches, just like they have their regular coaches. And both the coaches are very familiar. George Santiago was originally a fighter there and came from that school. And, in a sense, became, one of our main coaches as well. And so it's, Dan has a black belt in jiu-jitsu. Glenn is not a black belt in jiu-jitsu, but for two guys, older guys, Glenn comes in the gym and gets his workout in. He comes in and he can throw some hands, and so that's definitely he's has his own thing that he does. I mean, he's not a fighter. He's not trying to be a fighter, but that's his thing. But if he had to defend himself, I'm pretty confident that he could let his hands go.
Kamaru, I had a quick question to add on top of that. It seems that Dan, and I'm not just tooting the Blackzilians horn here because you're our guest, but I tend to think that he's kind of reaching for a lot of his arguments to why he, disagrees with all the Blackzilian success and how they gained all the fighters, to join their gym. It seems that he's, in my opinion, that he's a bit jealous that Glenn got there so quickly and didn't go through all the hardships. But I don't think that has to be a requirement. What's your opinion of Dan's opinion of Glenn?
100%. That's part of it. I feel like that's a big part of Dan's problem with Glenn is that in his eyes I think he felt that Glenn shouldn't be able to do it as fast as he has done it, and so he's in a sense jealous that how did you do that, or how are you up here like this if you didn't buy your way in? You must have paid this guy and that guy to write this article about you, to put this out or put that out. You must have bought that fighter or that fighter to come to your gym. How did you do it so fast? When in a sense, MMA it's evolving every day. It's a sport that's evolving so fast, and so guys all around the world are going to go to the best place that they feel like they can make that change with. And so if big name guys feel like the Blackzilians, the guys, the talent that we have in our gym, that's the place they want to be to make that change with so quickly, then of course big name guys and good guys are going to come to our gym. And so in a sense, I think that's something that bothers him because, they've been around for a while, since, kind of in those beginning stages, the stepping stones of MMA. And so I think that, them going through the trenches like that, I've even heard him say a few times, you just bought your way here to Glenn, that you didn't put the time in. And so I think that is part of why he's a bit upset with Glenn on why it is what it is right now, the way the Blackzilians are.
You think that lit a fire under ATT's ass to kind of change their ways, revamp their fight team and their training? I mean, now they've got Robbie Lawler as champion. Obviously, that was a good run, kind of re-sparked his career. T. Wood.
I think so. I mean, it's if you have a McDonald's down the street that's making pretty shitty burgers, and then right across the street a Burger King opens up a brand new one that's putting out good burgers, at McDonald's, to stay in business, you're gonna have to clean up. Either you clean up or not. And so I mean, I think it's common sense that, you would have to clean up, or all your fighters are going to want to leave and go to this brand new gym that's obviously doing great things and helping their guys out.
Kamaru, does it bother the fighters at all that the coaches are such a focus of the show, and in general, maybe even off the show? Is it something that the fighters even think about or talk about, or is it a distraction at all?
No, I don't think it was a distraction. No one's told me that. No one's felt like that. I don't think it was a distraction, because at the end of the day, we were the ones who had to go in the cage and fight. So we had a lot on our minds that we needed to work on and needed to focus on, as far as getting down the weight, making sure you were on, and getting in there and competing for your team. Because overall, like you guys mentioned, there's a grand prize there that we're all competing for. And it's also an opportunity for us to better our lives and our families' lives. And so I don't think we're too worried about that.
Yeah. There is something I definitely want to ask you about. Last week, on last week's episode, when Dana White said that, he kind of mentioned it in passing, that maybe both teams are a little bit pampered being in Florida and have very wealthy owners taking care of everybody. What is your take on what he said?
Initially, most people wouldn't have caught that, but I heard it, and to be honest with you, it's something that kind of it irritated me a bit, and it irked me quite a bit thinking about all week, because it's no secret. Yes, we have very wealthy owners, and me personally, the reason I made the full decision to switch to MMA is because of someone that I consider, not just a brother and a mentor, but it's someone that I owe a lot to. And that's Rashad Evans. And so when Dana said that, it kind of irked me, because I'm my own man, and I wasn't raised to depend on somebody else. Now, it's a different case if someone wants to help me get to that goal that I see for myself and that I'm striving for. But I don't want to depend on anybody, and I don't go out of my way to depend on anybody. And so when Dana says, "Oh, these guys are just down there living a rich life," and that didn't light a fire under them the way they were fighting, I felt that wasn't true. Yes, you have guys in Brazil that are going balls to the wall trying to kill themselves. It's easy to try to go balls to the wall and kill yourself when you're fresh off the street, you're 2-1 or 1-2, and you don't really have that much experience, but you have a crazy character, a crazy personality that's good for TV. Well, fine, let's just throw this guy in there and be good for TV. But it's also tougher when you have a whole cast of, if you look down their cast and their guys, there's one of their guys has more fights and more experience than, if not 5 or 6 of our guys put together, combined. And so when we're going out there, it's like basically David going with Goliath, but basically David is finding a way to win every time. And so if we needed to do what adjust our game plan to find a way to win that fight, then we're going to find a way to win that fight, because at the end of the day, yeah, we can go balls to the wall, but if you lose, you still lost.
Right.
It's nice, though. I mean, I guess I'm really curious about how the season plays out, in that this is not an elimination tournament anymore. Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think so. There is the possibility for somebody to lose and then still come back and fight again, correct?
Yes, definitely.
And so possibly even guys can go the whole season and not fight at all, and others could fight 3 or 4 times, right?
Definitely.
Not realistic, but to that end, I mean, what was the take with you guys as a team in terms of that possibility of not even fighting? I mean, that was never the case with any of the other seasons. Everyone knew that they got a shot at least once. I'm also curious about what the UFC has said in terms of fighter contracts. If you guys automatically get UFC contracts, or how that works after the season's over.
I'm curious to see what they say about that as well. I mean, I know as much as you know in that aspect, but it was a different dynamic this season, because it's obviously 8 of our guys versus 8 of their guys, and there's 12 fights. And so, of course, a few guys had to fight more than once. Somebody was going to have to fight more than once. And you can either go 4 guys, fight twice, or you can have one guy fight all 12 fights if you wanted to.
My guess is that you fight for the next 11 shows, right? You just go, right?
Exactly. I just go. They just throw me in there. We fight after fight.
Well, let's talk strategy a little bit, because there is, as Dana said, and everybody's talked about, there is a lot of strategy involved. It's pretty much all strategy. Alexis, what is your take on how it's breaking down so far?
Well, the one thing that I know that I've talked to Jay about, especially from last season, was that the fact that you don't know who the fighter is until 24 hours prior. So I really like that you have to strategize in every way possible, instead of just sitting there kind of going, oh, I know who I'm fighting, so I have time to actually look at this fighter, see how they fight, and know what I can expect. This time you're literally taking everything that you know, and you have to just plan it out really well. And as a fighter myself, we don't have that until the day of, or sometimes we do know. So I like that you can stay on your toes the whole time. It's a
Stay
smart
ready,
idea.
you don't got to get ready.
Yeah.
That's certainly the case in this season.
Kamaru?
Yeah, definitely. And that's one thing that, I think Dana didn't take into account when he made that comment, because when you have infinite amount of time or however long you have, 4 weeks to 8 weeks to train for an opponent, and you know who you're going to fight, it makes a different fight. You basically, you can watch film break down what that guy is good at, that opponent is good at, or what they're not good at. And so you can come out there and try to exploit that weakness and, make a wide margin of a decision for yourself, or finish that opponent based on what you saw. But this, you don't know who you're fighting 24 hours. You only know who you're fighting 24 hours before. So you have to be ready for anyone at any given time. And we all know styles make fights. And so a different style going with your style might make for a boring fight, while a different style might make for the most exciting fight of all times.
Absolutely, Jared.
Well, we're talking about Dana's comments. So I thought, episode 1 was last week, Kamaru, and he didn't have very many kind words to say about your fight with Michael Graves. He said that both of you held back a bit and that both of you should be going for it. I, as a spectator, was kind of thinking more strategically as for your career, thinking that you don't want to show everything on the first week. You want to go 110%, but you don't want to show 8 other guys on the other team everything that you have. And if you win week 1, to me, that's a win-win. I know that Dana wants really exciting stand-up fights, but what's your opinion about what he said about the fight, and what was your strategy going into week 1?
Yeah, that is when you going into it, there's also a huge difference in dynamic in this season. In other seasons, it's basically for the fights, you're in the UFC gym and in Vegas, and basically it's you guys, your team, and their team, and maybe 8 other people in there, the judges, Dana, Lorenzo, or whoever else is attended, there for that fight. And so it's 8 guys, so it's quiet in that gym. So you come in and you do what you got to do. But there was a different dynamic this season. It was in our gym. Mm-hmm. So we had to defend home turf. Mm-hmm. And so when you step in, it's such a draining process to be in there, and not just in front of my team, but their team. So you walk in the gym and there's 40 to 50 guys from ATT screaming ATT at you. And there's 40 to 50 guys from my team screaming Blackzilians at me. And so the tensions are very, very high in there, and you can just feel that when you walk out there going to the cage, because you have to represent your team. And so yeah, definitely there was a lot of pressure, and not to mention it was the first fight of the season. You go out there and do something crazy, you get caught, and you're knocked out, and now you just lost for your team and lost the home advantage for your team, instead of being strategic about the fight and doing what you need to do to win the fight, because it's still a competition at the end of the day.
Looking back, do you feel like you held back at all week 1?
Do I feel like I held back? I would say definitely the adrenaline and all the, just the pressure of being that first fight, being that first guy out there. I would say it definitely, that's something that holds you back. Fear holds you back.
Yeah.
So the fear of failure, that's always something that holds men back. But, But if I was afraid to fail, then I wouldn't have came out of that locker room to represent my team. I still walked out there to the cage, and I still let it go for my team, and I still went out there and got the win for us.
You brought something up, actually, that I'm very curious about, and there's a minor point, but I know a lot of fans are probably wondering. Specifically, during your fight, the people around the cage, that seemed like maybe it was just because it was a smaller enclosure than the Tough House in Vegas in the gym, but it seemed like there was a lot more people around the cage rooting for, really, it sounded like they were rooting for Blackzilians half the time. Who was allowed in there for those fights? I mean, you mentioned 50 people from ATT and Blackzilians. Maybe you're just pulling out a number, but was it split between the two? Were members of the gyms invited to watch these the shows and stuff?
I don't know the exact the criteria to be invited in, but I know I walk out from my fight and I can point out, oh, that's Robbie Lawler, that's Dustin Poirier, that's Tito Torres, that's this guy, and that guy. And I look over Anthony Johnson, Gilbert, Rashad Evans, Tyrone Spong, and Michael Johnson. And it's just, the list goes on of guys that are in that gym. And I don't know if they let families in or if they let doctors and people, just affiliated with both gyms in the gym. But it was a lot of people. And I don't even think, for that first fight, the cameras didn't really even do it justice. There was a lot of people in that gym.
In my opinion, it's probably one of my favorite aspects of this season is having those crowds. Yes, it's loud.
That sound.
Because last season it was so quiet because it was just the girls and the coaches.
Is. Every tough season it's always quiet.
And then so this one really caught me off guard because I was like, wow, can you actually go in and watch? Because I would like to be part of that, even though they already shot it. But I thought that was pretty cool, though. It kind of amped up everybody.
Imagine how hard it must have been, though. There had to have been some very specific criteria because they're obviously very secretive and protective about information getting out ahead of time. So the people that they had in there must have had to sign some kind of a waiver.
Well, yeah, that's like with anything. I mean,
right, but that's such a huge amount of people that it would be very easy to leak info and for it to get lost in the mix with whoever.
That's why you have good producers and staff. And
I love that Nat sound. That 10 minutes. That 10 minutes of the show of the 2 5-minute rounds. Yeah. Just you hear the fighters fighting and trainers and other fighters yelling at them, and it's just. That is some of the most anxious reality TV out there right now, and I love it. It sucks you right in.
It's fun. How was it for you, Kamaru? Was that, I mean, I know you don't know any different because you haven't been on another tough season, but it must have really made it an exciting atmosphere.
It did. I actually coached on season 14 of Tough, and so I was there for those fights, and I've been in that gym and heard how quiet it is, and it's just. It's very quiet in there. You just go in and it's quiet, you focus, and you get the fight out of the way. But in this one, it was everyone, and it's added pressure because you have, usually when you go to a fight in an arena, you have thousands of people that you don't really know or care about. Just drunk fans screaming random things at you, and you get used to blocking that out. and just focusing on your coach's voices. But in this season, it was guys that regularly that see you on a daily basis, that train with you on a daily basis. So their voices, and they know your strength and your weaknesses, so they know what to say or scream at you. And so you have 40 guys screaming different advice to you at different times, and it makes it very tough to even listen to your coach or hear your corner.
Right. Well, let's talk rivalries for a second, because I think the show is showing us, the producers are kind of starting to build up to show us the rest of the season that perhaps you, Kamaru, and another gentleman in the house get into it a little bit. Can we talk about Mr. Hayter?
Yes, Hayter is a guy that I know of. I've never seen him physically in person, but I know of him because he's fought 2 of my teammates previously. And so both of those guys, and they said the exact same thing. Oh, this guy is super nice and super this, but after each fight, he acts like a total jerk. And so I'm like, okay, well, I saw that on TV. I saw his last fight with one of my teammates, Felipe. And so I was reserved about my feelings for him. And so coming into the house, we were he was very respectful in front of me, always to my face, very respectful, nothing out of character. He would never say anything wrong to me, which I never even presented that opportunity. I'm not that kind of guy to really, put myself out there unless you say something to me first. And so he kind of, as you can see in this last episode, in front of me, the beginning of the episode where I'm in the kitchen, and which I was the first one up every morning. I'm in the kitchen, and he comes in the kitchen, and he's like, "Oh well, I really respect you guys. You and Michael Graves fought a tough fight. You guys are both warriors, and I really respect you guys. And hopefully, a warrior like yourself, we can get a chance to mix it up, because I think we'll have the fight of the season. We can really make some money." 100% respectful, and I'm like, I respect that. And I'm like, oh, okay, yeah. You saw my face in that episode.
Yeah, I did.
I was like, yeah, okay, yeah, I get that.
Were you buying it?
Then it cuts to the next scene, and he's in a van. He's just like, I'm gonna F that dude up. I'm gonna put fish. I'm like, whoa, where did that come from?
He's playing you. That's what he's doing, and you know that. But you're so much better at formulating two sentences together, so we appreciate that. I'll take a shot. We can get Hyder on the show. I love it, but I think he thinks he's a little more clever than he is, and I think you see through that.
Yeah, 100%. I saw right through that. I don't get involved in all that. I was there for competition. I was there with my team. We had a goal in mind, and we were here to win this competition, and nothing was going to deter us from that. And so we had to stay the course and stay focused and get that done. And I couldn't, if I was cracking or if I was unraveling, the whole team would kind of follow suit, and that's what we didn't want. And so we just stayed strong, and I didn't play into the mind games. That's not me. At the end of the day, if you're going to fight me, we're scheduled to fight. You're going to have to step in that cage, and I'm going to have to step in the cage. And whether I'm nervous or scared or whatever, I'm still going to step in that cage, and I'm going to put it all out there. And so I don't even engage in that warfare or whatever.
I know that you can't give too much away, if anything, future episodes to come, but I asked you earlier, why do you think out of all the guys in the house, his attention went towards you?
To be honest, I don't know. I think I don't know. It's certain people I believe you just kind of exude a certain energy about themselves, and I guess I didn't come in with talking crap or talking negative about them and certain things like that. So it might have been something that bothered him, because that's something he expected, and so it might have bothered him. Like, why isn't this guy talking trash? Why isn't this guy trying to stir up beef or start trouble? So you know what? I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna pick on him and see what's about this guy. Or he might have done research and felt that I was the most threatening guy to him in the house. So yeah, I don't know, to be honest with you.
Are those kind of antics something we can expect from him for the rest of the season? It struck me kind of that he was a little bit the Chris Lieben, the Junie Browning of the house. Am I off on that one, or he's the instigator? Hater the instigator.
To be honest with you, I'm not. We pretty much. I'm not around him the whole season, so because as you can tell, he's one way in front of me and he's another way behind me. My back, so I can't really tell you what else he does, because I haven't seen all episodes, so I don't know what else he does. But
I mean,
it's not looking too good right now.
You got to be doing something right if you got haters on your back. So
yeah,
just saying.
Oh God.
And Hiders, hey.
This guy. Oh my gosh.
But I like that about this season too, is that last season, not to bring any sexist roles or anything, but I mean, with the all women fighters, if there's drama, they just kind of stayed away from each other. That was kind of what that was. Or they would talk crap behind each other's back, but they would never make any confrontation in front. So
there was though.
I mean, there was, but I mean, there wasn't mind games. You know what I mean? It was more like you were being catty.
Well, that's what 20 women will do in a house together.
Exactly. So that's why I like it
Some
here.
Some fellas will go for that too, though.
Yes, that's true. I know.
Exactly. So I kind of liked that this season, that it's more of it's more for intimidation than just kind of being like, I hate that, B word or whatever, I like that. I don't know.
Kamaru, we'll see, but I am not going to disagree with you, but I feel like we've already seen a little bit of cattiness between the guys in a couple weeks. What do you think, Kamaru?
Cattiness between the guys.
That's the name of the next episode.
I don't know if I would call it cattiness between the guys.
I'm asking.
Say more like, mad dogging between the guys.
Yeah.
Like, that's a better, more masculine term for it.
Absolutely.
But there's definitely a back and forth struggle that kind of happens between the guys, and it definitely it blurs the lines a bit. When you can expect that. You have 16 guys living in a very close, confined space for 6-7 weeks with all that testosterone there, and you can't see your family, no phones, no TV, nothing to distract you. There's bound to be some mad dogginess.
It trips me out, though, because looking at that house, I mean, the tough house in Vegas was one thing, but y'all got a tough mansion there.
Yeah.
I mean, the view outside and the pool, I guess there was a pool table to begin with in all seasons, but that was a hellified pool table y'all got in there, And
because I love that you brought that up, because there's a viewer, his name's Joseph Boza. He's always watching
Joe
our
Boza,
shows.
what up?
He also said, to me, the house felt and looks bigger. 6 bedrooms, 17 bathrooms, and a guest house? ?
They even have a workout room there.
Yeah.
It was a huge house. When we got in, it was a huge house. But of course, we're confined to restricted from some parts of the house. So it's not we just had access to this fat mansion, because you saw how big that house is. If we had access to that whole house, there would be no interaction between both.
That's so true. I didn't even think about that.
That's a very good point.
Zero interaction. And so, of course, we're confined to a certain space, limited space, to where we had to have those interactions between the two teams. Yeah. And so, I mean, it was a nice house. And I think the view is probably the best thing about that house is the views. It's right on the Intercoastal. And so you got to see Sundays, Saturdays, you got to see the boats driving by. And it was beautiful and sunny. And that was one of the biggest things that I loved about the house the most.
That struck me when the last episode, when you guys are coming in, they're introducing the teams. Y'all coming in on the boat reminded me like a Hype Williams video. It was ridiculous. I'm like, where's Puffy with the shiny suit? And at the stern of the boat.
Show my Puffy dance, huh?
Yeah.
Oh, my word.
Well, let's break down the fight of this episode. Let's get to it.
Do we
Jared?
have to? It made me so mad, and I didn't realize, we were all talking about when we were watching it, that how different they were. I mean, you told me that he was the rookie.
The differences between
the fighters.
Boskapi and Uros.
Yeah.
Did I get that right, Kamaru?
Jurisic.
Yes, Uros.
There you go.
Uros.
Yeah.
Big difference in age and experience with these guys. Yeah, and that's another fascinating aspect of the show, is that you have so much less time to prep for your opponent. That you find out your opponent 24 hours than before you fight them, whereas in previous seasons. Well, you were on season 14. I mean, how many days was it between when guys would be announced who they're fighting versus when they actually fought? Was it 3, 4, 5 days?
Yeah, I believe it was about 3 to 4 days.
Okay. A little bit more time to plot and plan, but it really is like a backgammon crapshoot here.
It's a big difference, because you have time to plan on not just the fight itself, but your weight cut and on how you want to make that weight cut. And so with this, you had no time. So when you found out, you had to step on scale. So you were fighting this guy. When you step, basically, I have to fight this guy tomorrow. So it doesn't matter how bad your weight cut was or how good your weight cut was. You were fighting this guy, whether you like it or not. And so that made a huge difference. But yeah, it was. They had their least experienced guy going against our most experienced guy. So that basically showed that what team was kind of really dialed in and playing this game. And basically we were playing chess at that point, and it was checkers, basically.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Let's break down round one. What did you guys think? Jared, do you want to?
Well, going into the fight, like we talked about, the experience of Buscapé, and Uros is so young. And what struck me too was Buscapé was so much shorter, but he had a longer reach. So I wasn't even worried about Uros's his striking. I thought that Buscapé could smother that, and even in the first round, you could see Buscapé getting in some good strikes. So in the first round, I mean, he completely controlled. It was 4.5 minutes on the ground.
Yeah.
So I mean, he dominated that round, and Uros looked scared to me. I mean, he looked worried in the ring, and Buscapé just looked calm and cool and collected, and he definitely controlled the whole first round.
Yeah, I think it did look a lot. The differences in experience and mentality was pretty apparent on each guy's face. I mean, in a lot of ways, it felt a little bit like the Graves and Kamaru's fight, in that it was takedown, groundwork. Although Graves continued to get up and Kamaru would take him down again, there was a little bit less of that. But when you're under a guy like Buscapé, and you have that much less experience. Slovenia is not really known for their wrestling, I don't think. Certainly not for their Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Mm-hmm. And, when you're against a guy with the experience in BJJ and MMA like Buscapé, you're in for a rough day there on bottom. And it was... I guess I was a little bit surprised that Buscapé didn't try to exert more for a finish, for an early finish. But he certainly he couldn't get out like who am I thinking? Uros. He was keeping the closed guard, and so there wasn't a lot of room to maneuver and get out of there to pass guard. And so I saw a lot of hammer fists, and he pounded him out for the 5 minutes there for the most part.
Alexis?
No, I mean, Jay took everything I wanted to say. It just felt like, no, it's okay. It's more along the lines of, like Dana said, that he just blanketed him, like, pretty much both rounds the whole time. And I felt like the whole time I was sitting there, like, get up on your feet. And he was even using his toes on the cage to pull himself up. And that was crazy. At that point, I was like, oh, you're done. Like, I already knew round one that was going to be a problem.
Kamaru, what was your take of round one?
In this game, in the MMA world now, we are all professional, especially when you're trying to fight for the UFC. You are professional, which means you should be at the top of your game. You're a level above every other little small promotions and small shows out there. And so being a professional at the highest level, you have to be trained and skilled at all levels. And so it is your fault if you can't get up for 5 minutes, you're down on the ground and you can't get up. That's your fault. That means you did something wrong. You need to work on something. And so it's quick for people to judge and say, oh, he just took him down and held him down. Well, the guy should have got up. True. He's a professional. Get up. If he's taking you down and holding you down, get up and punch him in the face. You're a professional. You should be able to do that. Another professional should not be able to hold you down, because when we come in this game, everybody wants to be a world champion. At least I hope so. And so you have to work towards that. And world champions don't get held down and just lay there and blanketed and beat.
Yeah.
True. All right, round two. Let's do it.
He gave up. That's exactly what I saw. As soon as he was up against the cage and his arm was completely wrapped around like that, and he just wasn't even moving. He was just laying there trying to figure out. He was even trying to move his hands in places. Then he gave up halfway, and he just kind of stood there. And that was again the moment where I was like, you're so tired. Yeah. You're not going anywhere. And as a fighter, if it's especially in this competition, even though it is kind of early, if you're giving up like that, how are you going to do with the next fight?
Yeah, Jay.
There was one part, the up kick. I'm curious if Kamaru can talk about if anybody brought that up after the fact. I don't think it made a difference in the fight. Buscapé was on his way to win, but at one point midway through, Uros did throw an illegal up kick that landed on Buscapé, and the referee kind of failed in that moment there when he didn't stop it. Buscapé he was a grounded opponent, technically speaking, and Uros threw a kick to his head. It landed, but the referee, and I think it was Marcos Rosales, I could be wrong about that, but I believe that was his name, didn't stop the fight when he absolutely should have. It was in full view.
Kamaru, did you see that?
You know what? I think I did, but in the heat of the moment, I was so worked up for that fight that you just don't even care. And Buscapé is a guy that just you're gonna need a bat and 10 other guys with bats to stop him from coming forward.
But nevertheless, I mean, it was an illegal blow that was right in front of the referee. He should have stopped it and separated him.
The referee saw it because you even heard him in the fight say, "Are you okay?" or something like that.
Yeah, it was just the wrong procedure there.
I mean, there was a few mistakes, but it didn't deter the plan, which was to go out there and get the win for the team, and so that's what he continued, and that's what he did.
Jared, what was your take?
Everyone else has pretty much said it. Buscapé had dominated him. I think he had him in the half guard for a while in that round. But I'll go back to the strikes. Everyone was saying Uros's strikes were going to be dominating, and he came out so wild. And Buscapé had so much more compact strikes, and they were just so much more accurate. And as soon as he started beating him at his supposed game, you knew, okay. And then even Uros tried to take him down, and that's not his game at all. He wasn't listening to his coaches. He got really wild, and I think he got kind of worked up in the moment. And Buscapé was so calm.
Well, the Blackzilians are up now, 50 points, right? They get 25 for those first 4 fights, so they take the win. What did you guys? I guess. Well, we kind of. Sorry, we have to keep going because we're gonna wrap up, but. What do you think strategy moving forward? What do they need to do to American Top Team, that is, to now start to catch up to the Blackzilians?
I think they probably need to just pick start sending out their top guys and see who they send. I'd probably use Nate Coy or who's the other one? The other wrestler at the top of my list here. I'll tell you, Nate Coy or Steve Carl or even Grillo. Grillo's a heavy-handed striker. Nate Coy, with his wrestling, can take down and hopefully keep a guy down.
Yeah. I'm watching Kamaru's face. What? I know you can't keep too much away. He's the secret keeper. What can we be looking forward to that you're actually allowed to kind of share with us?
You guys are just, maybe because Dana said that, when Dana says something, people tend to listen to it and run with it and go off of that. But I'm excited. I'm very excited for you guys to see what is up next in these next episodes. There's 10 more episodes, and in it, I'm just excited for you guys to see it. Because it's basically, and I've said this in all my interviews that I've done for this, it's gonna be it's an unbelievable finish to where people might even think that this is scripted. This was fake.
Wow.
That's how good this is.
You got me. Hook, line, and sinker there.
Yeah. So we're looking forward to seeing you fight again, right? Yeah.
Yep.
What episode should we tune in there? I get him?
Okay, quickly, we have to touch on a real quick, important UFC topic. Very quick. I want everybody's opinion on this.
Oh yes, the injury to Khabib, right?
No, that would be Mr.
Rampage's fight.
That would be Mr. Stop, he's hilarious. Mr. John Jones. Stop. Wait, everybody, quick opinion because we've got to wrap up. John Jones being stripped of his title. Go, Alexis.
I have no words for that.
Okay.
Absolutely the right thing to do. There was no question. It was handled correctly, and it needed to be in this case.
Yeah, okay. I agree.
As a fan, I don't care if he is or not. I want to see guys fight. I want to see girls fight.
I do.
I know they're a league, so they have to do what they have to do. I don't think it protects their image at all. I think
really?
No, I don't think so because it's such a brutal sport already. I don't think if he's allowed to fight, I don't think they're looked at as anything worse or anything.
Cars in the
I know it's bad. I'm not condoning his behavior. I'm just saying as a fan, I want to see him knock people out.
All right.
He almost did.
Kamaru, what do you have to say about John Jones being stripped of his title?
To be honest, I can take a step back and really see this from both sides and just the hurt and maybe the sadness and disappointment that he feels, and not just himself, but in his family, letting them know like how much he's let them down. And at the same time, I can look on UFC's behalf and how much he's letting the brand down because it's all for the brand.
Yeah.
And what he did is not good for their brand. It's not acceptable for their brand. And so I can understand why they would strip him of the title and why they took the action that they did. But my heart also goes to him, and I hope that he gets the help that he needs.
I agree with you, Kamaru, 100%. I think the UFC handled this correctly. I wish John Jones the best and that he gets the help that he needs and that he comes back. Kamaru, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us tonight. We really appreciate it.
We should get one more question in on him, the most important one of the week, even maybe. Who do you got? Mayweather, Pacquiao?
Oh, no, why'd you do that?
Oh,
Did
my
I steal your
God.
question
Mayweather
again?
is my man. I think he's a defensive genius in the sport, but I think Pacquiao might be the right guy
All right.
to do that, to dethrone him.
Pac-Man for president.
Where can everybody find you on social media, Kamaru?
I am on Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat at USMAN84KG.
Fantastic.
Cool.
Love it.
KG, and of course Facebook, my name Kamaru Usman.
Thank you, Kamaru. And Alexis, where can everybody find you?
You can find me all over the interwebs as atorres890. You can also find me at our sister network, blackhollywoodlive.com, where we talk about geek, nerd, and tech news. I talk about video games, things that are happening in the Apple and the Microsoft world, and things like that.
Jay.
JTan716, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and I'm going back to Friendster.
Jared.
You can find me on Twitter at Gilkerson Radio. Let's talk a little UFC. Let's get controversial.
I love it. I love it. And I'm Suri Serano on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Periscope. Thank you all so much for joining us. See you next week. Bye.
Later.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
See you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.